Yo guys, what is up? Max in our Borderlands 4 video, and today we're going to be going over all of the new gear added in the bounty pack, what ideal roles you should look for on them, where to farm them, slash where they drop from, and also kind of like a tier list on like where I think they stack up relatively amongst their peers. So I hope you guys enjoy the video and the breakdown. Let's do this. So we're going to do this in two sections. We're going to talk about the guns, their ideal roles, and where to farm them first, and then we'll just do like kind of a ranking of them at the end. So first weapon to talk about is the Shalashaska. I'm probably just going to be abbreviating this as the Shala. This is a new Jacob's pistol. You do not need to own the new DLC to get this. Its dedicated drop is from the new Ordinite processor events. There is one in the DLC that you can do and go do. However, the other locations are just south of the makeshift chalet, right above the yawning yard. The other one is to the left of Should I Keep in this field here, and the last one is by Heritage Opus. Heritage Opus right here, and then the next processor is there. Which processor event you farm doesn't matter. As long as you're doing these processor events, you will have a chance to drop the Shalashaska. Now, in my opinion, this is one of the best weapons that we got. Once again, we'll do a ranking later. However, this comes with the Awful Lot perk, which on reload, you grant a stack of exhilaration. Each stack of exhilaration increases the number of possible ricochets by 1. This stacks up to 5 times for 5 Jacob's ricochets, which is disgusting. It also has a pretty wide perk pool. I think getting Daedalus shotgun on this is incredible because it turns it basically into a masher pistol. Getting Torg on it is also nice. You can go for Ripper if you want to fire it full auto. I don't like Ripper personally on this just because Ripper to me feels a little awkward for mobbing. So my Godroll would be Jacob's, Daedalus shotgun, and then either most likely Torg impact. Torg stickies is fine too. The Hyperion shield isn't the worst thing to get. That's the roll that I was using a lot. But this on like Infinicrit Harlow, Bleed Vex, Ranger Rafa, all builds basically would benefit from this thing. A very, very solid pistol. Our next gun to mention is the Bubbles Assault Rifle. Now, I actually like this thing a fair bit. I've mainly got it to roll in Radiation or Cryo. I have heard that it can roll in other elements. I think it's all elemental available. This is a Vladoff AR that will come with the perk Squeaky Clean. This shoots bubbles, and those bubbles actually do a fair bit of damage. Their big downside is their projectile velocity is very, very small or slow, so they're hard to hit moving targets. They also kind of move a little bit erratically. As you can see, like I was lined up there and it went like around his head there. So it's kind of a weapon that you want to use a bit like a shotgun. You need to be relatively close. However, if you are close with the right rolls, it hits pretty hard. Now, Jacob's on this weapon is a little bit interesting. Jacob's roll will ricochet projectiles, but it will not ricochet... Oh, you know, I thought it didn't ricochet bubbles, but it actually looks like it does. It looks like it's a bit of a mix. Like the bubbles are going out, but there's also some projectiles. But Jacob's definitely going to be something you want to look out for on this thing. Yeah, it looks like some bubbles, some projectiles. Interesting. But Jacob's really helps. The other thing that would be very, very nice on this, either Ripper for a little bit faster fire rate would be nice. Ripper rolls at least, it looks like about 2 more fire rate on it. The other thing that would be nice is Daedalus shotgun or Daedalus SMG for even more fire rate. Kind of the only real downside of this gun is it does fire a bit slower by default, but its projectiles do hit hard. So either Daedalus or Ripper to speed up that fire rate and projectile speed. If you want to farm the bubbles, you can do so by killing Chisabella in the new bounty pack. The next weapon that drops from Chisarella is the Mercurious. This is a new Vladoff submachine gun that has the unique perk Fleet-footed bullet damage scales with movement speed. Now, the number one important thing to understand with this gun is the bullet damage scales not off of your spec movement speed, but of your actual movement speed. So, for example, if you have 100% movement speed, but you're standing still, it won't do any extra damage. So just like show that off real quick. If I am standing still with, here, let me take off my amp shield so it's not confusing. If I am standing still, we shoot the target, we do 1,700 damage. That number is slightly going up because of my specialization. But if we're standing still, we do like 1,742 damage on the target dummy. If I start moving at all, we basically do double damage. So you do want to be moving at all times while shooting this thing. You basically double your damage by doing so. If we get stacks and a fair bit of movement speed, now when we shoot, we do 6,000. That was with a crit. 4,918 without. And then if we get that stacked up and shoot, now we're doing 41. So the ratio does increase. You do get more damage the more movement speed that you have. And you do want to be moving at your max amount of movement speed when shooting this thing, which makes it a great fit for Rafa. For the rolls in the Mercurious, the biggest issue this gun has is its fire rate. While it can do a fair bit of damage, it shoots relatively slow for an SMG, which can be tough while you're moving so fast. So you're going to want to spec a ton of fire rate if you're going to use this thing, which fortunately Rafa has. And then for your Godroll, in my opinion, it's going to be a Jacobs for extra ricochets, because this is a mobbing weapon in my opinion, and Daedalus shotgun for extra projectiles to compensate for the lack of projectile bullet speed or fire rate. Next, we're going to talk about the weapons that drop from Vortex. The first is the Roulette. I made a 7-minute video on this thing yesterday, so I'm not going to go too in depth. But basically, it gains a bunch of different buffs whenever you reload it, like the Lucky 7 from Borderlands 3, from increased mag size to more crit damage to higher fire rate. And if you get a Ripper roll on this, it overrides the annoying charge-up mechanic of it being order to turn it into basically a full auto SMG. And if you get multiple of its rolls, let's see if we can get lucky here. There's a 7 roll. It turns into just an absolute machine. One of the highest fire rate or DPS guns in the game right now. Definitely, if there's anything that you should go farm in this bounty pack, this would be my #1 recommendation, is trying to get a Roulette with a Ripper roll. You could also try to go for Jacobs or Daedalus shotgun, depending on what you're looking for. But this drops from Vortex. Next gun from Vortex is the Doeshot. Now, this is a really, really sick gun, but you wouldn't really know it unless you get the ideal roll, and that is actually going to be a Ripper roll. By default, the Doeshot has 5 in the mag. When you shoot this thing, it basically, when you click the trigger, it'll dump all of the ammo in the mag. So if you have 5, you shoot 5 times and then reload. However, if you get a Ripper roll, the magazine goes crazy and goes from 5 to 20, and then it also fires quicker. And then you've basically got a fully auto Jacob shotgun, and the Doeshot also ricochets projectiles. So you've got a crazy mobbing weapon that actually can put out some pretty decent boss DPS. So Ripper is definitely, in my opinion, the ideal roll. You could also get, I believe, Torg on this. Torg stickies could be kind of wild with Ripper plus Jacobs. I've got a really nice SMG one that ups the fire rate on it, which is quite nice. But I think I'd probably prefer Torg, either or. To farm Vortex, you're going to want to go along the Demon's Domain all the way to the right to go farm up on this right side, Vortex. Next, we're going to talk about the dedicated drops from Stone Demon. This is the main boss in the DLC. You can't miss it. It is pretty much in the lead middle area, and your objectives will lead you there. The first weapon to mention from Stone Demon is the Fleabag. This is a Torg AR. I don't have a ton of rolls to mess around with this thing, but its a special effect seems pretty bad. I think technically a Jacobs would be interesting, but basically this weapon can roll in different elements, and it rolls with the Ringleader perk. Sticky projectiles move to the most recently hit target. So if I hit this target and then I shoot the ground a bunch, you'll see that those stickies that I missed will actually go to the target. So shoot him and then shoot the ground, reload. Those stickies then get attached, and then all of them detonate. So if you're missing your shots, this seems like it could be an interesting weapon. I don't have a Jacobs roll to test on this, unfortunately, because maybe that could go do some weird things with it most recently hit target and then constantly hitting multiple targets. Could maybe duplicate stickies. Haven't tested yet. But that is the weapon. Next, we get the Broken Wings. This is basically the Sandhawk weapon from Borderlands 2, or Technically, you might know it from Borderlands 3 as the sniper, but it is now a Mallow-on gun, and it still has the kind of classic flying bird pattern. When you shoot this thing, it shoots out these projectiles that will do a wave pattern. These projectiles do spread out pretty quickly, so it's more of a close range weapon if you want to get all of the projectiles to hit an enemy. And this weapon also has some interesting things with the shotgun mode on Daedalus. If this is the normal wave, this is what a shotgun wave looks like. It like basically doubles your projectiles, which is kind of crazy. So I think a Daedalus roll with this plus Jacobs is what you're going to be looking for. That's going to give you tons of ricochets and tons of extra projectiles. You will absolutely ruin your ammo very, very quickly unless you're on an infinite ammo build. So that can be a little bit difficult to sustain. If you don't have that, Ripper can be nice for the extra fire rate. And also, like, I think this could potentially drop with Torg Stickies. Torg Stickies with the Daedalus shotgun could potentially be crazy, or just Torg Stickies in general on this. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten that roll yet, but it fires so many projectiles that could be a way to amp up this gun's single target. Right now, really don't like this gun for bossing. However, for mobbing, it's pretty solid. The next thing that drops from Stone Demon is the Hopscotch Shield. This comes with the Shook perk. You spawn a singularity when an armor segment breaks. The actual singularity's range and duration on this is incredibly lackluster. However, the base of this shield seems to be like 21k. Shield is relatively high with 0 like actual shield perks. If you could roll this with some extra shield perks to get it to a higher capacity, this would be genuinely probably one of the tankier options that you could go for. You could also get it with 3 segments instead of 2, so you could have more singularities proccing more often. So if you're looking for like a tanky shield, this could be a decent option with a little bit of utility. However, the singularity part of it, in my opinion, is underwhelming. The last boss and the most hidden boss in the DLC is Sturmdrang, which is a Destiny reference. The weapons that drop from this, you can find it, by the way, from going up kind of to this top area. You want to not go towards Chisabella. Chisabella is kind of like underground. If you stay towards this top area, then you can find this route to lead you to Stormdrang. And the first weapon to mention from it is the Laser Discer. Now, this is a technically returning weapon from the pre-sequel. The pre-sequel had a Laser Discer. However, this gun doesn't shoot lasers or discs, so I'm a little bit confused by it. This gun does do increased damage to airborne enemies. However, the like actual damage on it, fire rate is all really, really low. I have been told from my friends that are big Tediore users that this is actually one of the better weapons for Tediore builds. You're going to want to be looking for good Tediore rolls, such as like a homing replicator. I don't have one of those yet, but high mag size, good Tediore rolls. Seems like this thing could be pretty good. However, a little unfortunate that it doesn't shoot lasers or discs. I was kind of hoping for something a little bit cooler than like another TDR. The other weapon is the Hair Trigger. This is a Ripper shotgun. I've seen it come in multiple elements. The only thing that I haven't seen, and I've asked chat, doesn't seem like they have gotten one either, is parts on this thing. I'm just not sure if it can roll parts or not. I've only seen 3, so I don't have like a full summary on it. But this is a really kind of difficult weapon to use. Basically, you shoot a projectile, and then when you let go, it explodes. But the projectile happens immediately, and then the Ripper charge is just timing to detonate it. So you like shoot immediately, and then Ripper detonate. The issue with this gun is when things get chaotic, it's kind of hard to like see where your projectiles are and tell if you are like when you're detonating it. And it also does self damage. So when I tried to use this thing most of the time, I ended up just killing myself, and I felt like the damage was a little bit lackluster. This in theory looks like it could be a good dot weapon. However, the dot rolls that I've gotten on it, it being like a Ripper shotgun, are just underwhelming. I'm not really quite sure what you would use this thing for. It does have a decent AoE radius, so maybe if it did more damage, it could be good for like the new Vile or Ordinite enemies. But right now, pretty mid in my opinion. For the Vault Card weapons now, the first is the Tankbuster. This is a pretty unique sniper rifle. It rolls with Funnel, which heals nearby enemies to deal an additional damage per enemy healed. This with like Sniper Vex with a fair bit of enemies around can hit pretty hard. I don't really see myself using it over other sniper rifles for the simple fact that like the healing also isn't super great. A lot of times you're like full healing nearby enemies, and it just felt like a little bit more cumbersome and slow to use for mobbing on Vex than using something like the Stray. Ideally, I think you'd get this with a Jacob's roll and use it on Sniper Vex. The next weapon in the vault card is the Arctan. This is an interesting shotgun. Basically, it fires these like pretty large projectiles that bounce. It comes with 2 modes, both the like non-sticky mode, which does decent impact damage, and the sticky mode. This gun's a little bit awkward to use because of the projectiles. Kind of a lot of times just feel like they're struggling to hit enemies. However, where this gun shines is in its sticky mode. The base damage is pretty strong, and so if you have a way to apply multiple stickies on this, it can be pretty decent for single target damage. Don't think it does very well in mobbing. I haven't gotten the ideal rolls on this yet, but I think Jacobs would be pretty nice for it, so you could potentially apply more damage to enemies, as it's very slow for mobbing, but bossing is honestly pretty decent with this thing. And then the last weapon is the Mercredi. This is a dataless gun that comes with cyclical, cycles between different firing styles on reload, while target locked to gain a stacking buff that gains 50% damage per stack. So if you fire an Atlas tracker dart in an enemy, you're going to get an increase in damage to them. And then every time that you reload this gun, it changes its style. So right now, you can see in the bottom corner is an AR. If I reload, it is now a sniper. So now it shoots slower. It all still consumes AR ammo. Now it's a shotgun. It'll shoot multi-pellet. And this gun could theoretically be cool. Unfortunately, it doesn't deal gun damage. It doesn't work with any thing that increases to gun damage, or in our synergies that work with gun damage or crit damage. It's just completely bugged and is one of the worst guns that they put in the game. For example, on Infinicrit Harlow, it cannot critical hit because it is not gun damage, and it does not proc excited state or any of these things. It does not benefit from like 90% of the things that you're using, so it doesn't really do any damage. This gun on paper could be pretty interesting once they fix it. I have reported that to Gearbox, but at the moment, I would stay very, very far away from using your points on getting this thing. All right, this is my kind of ranking of the new weapons. I don't have pearls in here. I didn't talk about pearls because we made a whole dedicated video for pearls yesterday. In general, though, I would say the pearls are around high B to low A tier. But for S tier weapons is the Roulette and the Shalashaska, or Shalashaska. I think I might have misspelled that there. Both really, really powerful weapons. Definitely must-haves. In A tier, I think the Doeshot, the Bubbles, and the Laser Discer as a TDR are deserving of the A tier. I have heard that Mercurious can be potentially a good TDR throw. I haven't gotten one myself, but potentially if the movement speed scales the TDR damage, could be really strong. That would definitely move it up into A tier. I currently would place it in B. The Broken Wings is a solid SMG. Just I think it like a 20 to 30% damage buff would put it in a really good spot. Fleabag, weird gun. Arctan, I could see putting it a little bit higher. I just don't think it fills any sort of niche, but the damage is solid. And then the Tankbuster is also, you know, a little bit more of a niche use weapon. Usually when I do my tier list, it's like S tier weapons are not only good, but useful on like literally every build in every scenario. And then in our C tier, we've got the Hair Trigger and the Hopscotch. And in F tier, we've got the Mercredi. Guys, that's going to do it for the video. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you found it informative. Plan to do a lot more coverage and update some of our builds for Borderlands 4. But yeah, guys, that'll do. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Peace.